Welcome to episode 3 of Spotlight Sessions, the podcast from AMP Talent Group, where we talk to the people powering the talent industry. I'm your host, Rosie Ferguson, and today we're chatting with renowned acting coach and talent manager Bob Luke, founder of Bob Luke Studios, with locations in New York and Los Angeles. Bob has worked with so many names you know well, esteemed directors like Ron Howard and Wes Craven, acclaimed actors including Meryl Streep, Susan Sarandon, Jesse Eisenberg. He knows a lot, and we are so excited to have him join us today from New York. Welcome to the show, Bob.
Thank you, Rosie. It's nice to be here.
Bob, let's start things off by learning a little bit more about you. How did you become an acting coach?
Well, I was an officer in the United States Army.
Okay.
And actually serving with the Special Forces School at the time.
Wow.
And Fort Bragg, North Carolina, had an incredible theater program, and acting was something I'd always been interested in. Would do it as a kid in school and things, but I moved almost every year to year and a half of my life. My dad was in the Air Force. And so I got the opportunity to, be in so many different schools. I think I lived in 12 or 14 different places, 5 high schools, moved 6 times before I started first grade. So it's each place I would, in class do something with theater and things, but I didn't have a chance to be in the drama club or do really school plays or things.
Sure, because you were moving around so much.
Yeah. And so when I finally kind of settled down with the Army after going to a military academy, they had this incredible theater program. And they used to bring in major guest stars from Broadway and old film actors. And Josh Logan, who directed Bus Stop with Marilyn Monroe and South Pacific and those things, came down and tested his musical version of Bus Stop.
Wow.
Using a Broadway actress and local actors. And the opportunity was just too good to pass up, really.
For sure.
So I auditioned for the local theater first, and then and got in there. Did my first feature role in the second show there. My first one was Sound of Music. Okay. So I was one of what I call the goodbye people. So long, farewell, a big goodbye. And but then I was featured in the next show, and then got invited out to the Post for the next show there, and it just steamrolled. It was. I ended up doing 36 major productions in 30 months, 40 MC jobs locally, and 7 or 8 films and television shows, a lot of military industrial films.
Right.
So I got a Screen Actors Guild card actually doing that.
Sure, it's a lot of hours.
Yeah, it's the colonel always used to say I was burning the candle at both ends and in the middle. So, but I found what I was good at. And I felt like, while I loved the military work, I realized that the theater was what I was supposed to be doing. And so I moved to New York and was working as an actor, doing theater, doing film and television and commercials, working with a casting director. And it got to where I was asked to go up to Westchester County very quickly to help assistant direct a show at a Hebrew Youth Association, the YMYWHA, Young Men and Women's Hebrew Association, that also had a terrific theater program. It's a great thing when New York is all over the area. Everybody has a great theater program. And so I got to assist on that, and then ended up taking over a show And then they asked me to teach, and that just sort of opened up the floodgates again.
All your rich experiences, and then being a teacher, I'm sure a lot of people over time were probably looking to you for some guidance.
Absolutely. And so the teaching sort of begat the management, because I would find people,
Right.
And exactly that, be asked to help guide them, which is not something the teachers generally do. I mean, they give some guidance, but their job is not to take you by the hand and walk you through the business side.
So you're an acting coach. You are someone with so much of your own experience. You're guiding people. Maybe you can tell us a bit what role an acting coach plays in an actor's career development.
A good acting coach can have a lot of impact.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's very much based on the acting coach working with what the client has to work with, developing that, and making sure that the actor stays very true to themselves. But if you don't practice your skills, you and develop them, then they can get stagnant, rusty. There are people who have bad habits that they are not even aware they have.
Okay.
One that I pick on people about is saying, "I'm sorry."
Yes. Yes.
And that was a good number of my Canadian clients.
I'm not surprised to hear that.
But so they don't even know they're saying it. And yet it can cost you an audition. If you apologize for something, they're not even aware that you did.
Absolutely. I remember one of my first acting jobs. It was an industrial in New York, and there were other Canadian actors there. And we were all apologizing to each other, and the production people were all staring at us, and they were like, "Wow, it really is true. You all just say, 'I'm sorry' all the time." No one realized that they were doing it.
What are you sorry for? Like, well,
exactly.
I'm sorry that I said I'm sorry.
So, Bob, you're known for working with up and coming actors, young actors, and what qualities and skills do you believe are essential for aspiring actors to develop, especially in the beginning when you're just starting out?
Personality.
Okay.
It's important that they not be afraid to let their individual personality come out. There are some very good actors who are very shy,
mm-hmm.
but when they have that opportunity to be someone else, and this is what you often hear from young actors: go, "Why do you like acting?" Well, I like trying to be someone else. And I think perhaps now, after the pandemic and things where people aren't communicating as well, except for their cell phone, which is a horrible thing for the actor.
Of course.
They are, they like to step into being someone else in a whole different role, a whole different situation. And it allows them to let their real emotions come out. But also having a sense of focus. And again, there are some very good actors. Many actors are like attention deficit. And it's interesting that their focus, they want to see other things. But I always attribute that to being really smart, that your brain wants to catch these other things.
Sure.
And so you have to learn how to form that and get them to have a particular focus. And if they're smart, knowing what they're looking at helps with that. And confidence. And again, a lot of actors are constantly afraid of different things in the business, mostly not being good.
Not being good, not booking work, not getting auditions. And you mentioned, the crutches we have, saying sorry being an example, and not having confidence and being afraid. And I think for a lot of actors, you're afraid all the time, because it's such a hard thing to do, because there's really no guarantee of anything at all, and no matter how hard you work. So how do you approach then working with actors, building their confidence if they might be struggling with self-doubt or stage fright, or all those things that can really hinder being a good actor? How do you work with them to overcome those challenges?
It certainly, as with pretty much everything we'll talk about here, it has to do with the individual and what it is that scares them, what it is they're afraid of, and finding how they best combat it. Sometimes you just have to shut up and go do it, and give an order, and they can follow that.
Sure.
But I think fear is created in the audition in most cases by not knowing either exactly what they're trying to show,
right,
or the fear of how the casting director is reacting to them. And so if they know exactly what they want to present, then they're not trying to blow up the world with their performance, but they're just trying to do their job. And it's like going to Starbucks and making that first big thing of coffee in the morning. You have a specific job if you reach those demands, and so it's simplifying the process, really. Know what you're trying to show, know how you want to get there, and then do that. Don't try to walk in the door and go, I've got to be brilliant, I've got to be great. Where some people are, some people aren't. That's not what makes the prompts the result from the casting director.
For sure.
Does that make sense?
For sure.
So knowing what you're trying to do and doing just that, then you can walk out of the room going, okay, I did what I intended to do.
Yes.
Not trying to judge it based on, the casting director smiled at me. Or they said, well, I used to have a kid who would call his mom afterwards, who became an agent, actually.
Okay.
And he'd walk out of an audition and go, yeah, Mom, they said I was wonderful. I was the greatest thing since sliced bread. Well, I guess I'm not getting this one, because the cast director used to say, oh, that was wonderful. You're great. We love you, and then you never hear from them again because you're a kid and they want to make you feel good about the process.
Of course.
So I would say wonderful is the worst word in the business.
For sure. And that's, that brings up, that's a really good point. I think you fixate on all these little things that you might see as a sign, right? They said wonderful. They said good. Should actors just shut all that out? Should you just not even, is that the way to handle it, to not let it affect you? I've heard, people say once you do an audition, just completely forget it after, which is easier said than done. What do you think about that?
No, that's true. It's true. There's so much depression in show business. I mean, in the whole world right now.
Yes.
But this is supposed to be fun.
Oh, that's a good reminder. Yes.
And if it ever, like for me, if it ever stops being fun, I'm going back to the Army. With my cane and fly swatter and
oh, go on! I could see you doing those, doing those squats, running up and down, all those military exercises, no problem.
Yeah, there you go. But it's people get depressed by walking out of the room going, first the process. I got an audition. Yeah, I'm going to blow this one away.
Oh my
and then
goodness!
They walk
Yes,
out of the room,
that high,
and they don't hear anything, and they're down, and then they, or they didn't smile at me. They just said thank you, and then walk out. Oh, jeepers! And then, oh, I got a callback, and they're bigger. It's up higher.
You're getting
And then
closer. Yes.
I didn't hear anything after the callback. And then you go lower. And so there's those ups and downs. You need to maintain an evenness. And that's why we say, just forget about it.
Yeah.
And I have clients so much more often than not who don't even remember. They got a callback, or I got a guy we taped last night. He's in Atlanta right now, visiting his mom, and we had to tape him for a callback. We couldn't even remember which audition it was.
Wow.
Or what the project was. In fact, we kind of think they may have seen him on another project that we submitted for, and then thought, oh, he'd be good for this, which happens all the time.
Sure.
That's why every audition is important. But so you have to walk out of the room and again just go, I did my job. I did what I intended to do. I showed these transitions. I remembered to smile if it's a commercial. The little things that you want to make sure that they see. If you show them what you want them to see, then you've done your job.
Sure.
And that's the only thing that you have any control over. Because you may walk out and they go, wow, that was it. That was the kid. And then if it's a commercial, the producer, who owns the chicken farm says, you know what? I decided I want to use my niece.
And that's a thing, right? That happens. That's a reality.
All the time.
Sure.
All the time. So it's, it's you have no control over anything but yourself. And so you want to keep positive about it. And again, just go in to have fun and walk out and have fun.
Bob, as an acting coach, a huge part of your job is giving actors confidence and empowering them to be their best. It's interesting that you said, and I remember that from I've been lucky enough to take your acting classes, and that really, really stuck with me, is that remember to smile. And I remember when you said that, we were talking about, slating and that basic stuff, elemental stuff in the beginning. And it hit me after. I was like, I'm not even smiling. And I'm a smiley person. Why am I forgetting to smile? Why is that happening? And I think it's because you get so intense and you forget that you should be having fun, and then you stop being yourself. So how do you keep your actors that you work with connected to themselves and being authentic? How do you work with them to keep their uniqueness and empowering them to be their best, to not forget to smile?
I use a cattle prod. I
think I see it there in the corner. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I believe that if you're laughing, you're listening.
Yes.
So humor is a very big part of the way I teach. In fact, I make all my clients have a joke in their back pocket.
Right.
Just in case, as you recall me saying.
Yes. And that immediately makes you relax, because if you have to think of a joke, there's only so seriously you can take yourself when you're trying to think of a joke, right?
It's like, you ask an adult to do something, they got their tie and they go, I can't do that. I'm not a child. Well, you're a child. That's what we're doing. That's why it's called doing a play. We're playing.
Yes, exactly.
And so going in the door and again, knowing what you want to show, what you're doing, for that character. But yeah, if it's, and I've had actors that got so nervous, I said, okay, we're going to stop for a while. We're going to stop until we're doing other things in your life that are rebuilding that sense of confidence and replacing that fear zone in you. I mean, young actors nowadays get anxiety.
Sure.
And there was an instance with a young lady whose agent called me and he had her on a set. Uh, she had flown in overnight, and they went to the second AD and said, I can't do this. And my anxiety is too high. And so the agent called
Oh my
me. Said,
gosh.
so
Bob, help.
yeah. So
That cattle prod.
yeah, exactly. But I had to say, use common sense, which is pretty much the way I teach. You have to, okay, they flew you in to do this job. You want to do it, but they are going to need time to replace you. So, it's kind of just nurturing a little bit. Can you give them a day or two to find somebody else? Yeah, I mean, knowing that the moment she was on the set and there with the other, the kids that she was going to be working with, and she actually was supposed to be a body double.
Okay.
Because the lead had hurt her foot or something, and she said, everybody's looking at me, and I had and this is the thing, nobody's really looking at you. The director's watching through the monitor. The sound guy's worrying about his tape.
Yes.
The cameraman's looking at the frame. Everyone else is doing their job. All you gotta do is do yours, But it was a matter of just getting her to first, just to get on the set.
Right.
So she was no longer applying that extra pressure to herself.
What a terrific way to take her focus off of her own fear by just reminding her that it's so smart. Because at the end of the day, we're all worrying about ourselves. Everybody's worried about doing their own job. And I think even in just saying that in that moment, it helped take some of the pressure off. Like, yeah, not everybody's not looking at me. They're just worrying about doing
the most important person in the world, no matter how selfish you want to be. And actors are known for being selfish.
What? No.
We kind of are. We like to, we want to be out in front and stuff. But everybody on a film set, they're doing their job. They don't have time to sit there and watch you and go, wow, she rides that bike really good. It's like, so again, just do the job and enjoy the process.
That's a really interesting part of your job as an acting coach, Bob, an agent, calling you with a situation like that. Does that happen a lot? Is that something that maybe not quite that dramatically, or does it happen like that a lot?
I don't sort of think of it like that, but I guess it does happen, fairly often.
Sure.
Or just the agent going, look, I'm sending you somebody I need you to work with to build. They booked, a year ago and aren't booking anything now. What's wrong with them? What have they done different? And sometimes it's very simple. It's one of my interns walking one day, and she would get everything she went out. She got callbacks, she said, Bob, I haven't done a callback in 2 weeks. And I looked at her, and I hadn't seen her. I think I'd been out of town, and I looked at her and went, what'd you do to your hair?
Oh.
Because, you know what? I lightened it a little bit. I thought, change it back.
Oh my goodness.
It was that simple.
Wow.
That she had gone more like very light blonde.
Yep.
As opposed to having the gold in it, because the light blonde pales you out. And it didn't work.
It didn't work.
So as soon as she went back, she literally that evening went, put the gold back in her hair, and got a call back.
Got a call back. Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
So agents do that. Production companies do that. I've been called on, the sets to help, with different actors and things. So everyone, the agent wants you to work. Your manager wants you to work. So, and I want you. It's so we're all working together to try and find what will help you to achieve that.
You bet. We're going to chat a little bit soon about because you also have been a talent manager. You've been on that side of it as well. But before we get to that, I wanted to talk a little bit more about auditions, because I know that our listeners, that's, something you're always looking to get them. And then when you get them, as we were saying, you're so excited, and then you're working to, get a call back and then hopefully book it. Can you share any techniques for actors that you would recommend to improve their skills, make a lasting impression, whether it's in the casting room or on a self-tape? And maybe you can, talk about it differently. Right now, everybody's self-taping, of course, and that's a big change since the pandemic. How do you, coach your actors in terms of getting that energy into a tape, because it's so different? And also, what about, how many times should you do it until it's how do you know when it's ready to go?
Sometimes you'll tape over and over and over, and
you start to torture yourself.
Yeah, it's like really the best way to evaluate a piece and what they're going to see is when you play it back, watch it without the sound on.
Okay, so the first time you play it back, no audio.
Well, just when as you watch it, so you see what you're showing.
Okay.
Because acting is not about the words. Even practically teach a monkey to or a dolphin to say the words, but it's what you're doing, how you're showing it, what's going on in your eyes, which is where the camera goes. Right. And so you always want to remember that on a self-tape. The camera, regardless of what you do, is watching your eyes. And so they're reflecting all those emotions and what the other person is doing. You want to see that, you want to be reacting to that. And reactions, of course, is primary thing that the actor is doing. Watching yourself without the sound lets you see those little things.
Okay.
And then you can go back and say, okay, did I get all the words right? But in all honesty, they're watching you to see. I mean, they're doing the same thing you're doing without sound. They're watching you to see what you're showing. Because so many of these, one of the auditions I shot yesterday was, he had gotten it yesterday morning, about 4:50 in the morning, and it was due today at 11.
Okay.
So he didn't have a lot of time to go over it and stuff, and casting people know that. And it's great if you get somebody who has a photographic memory. Of course. So they've got all the words down, but that doesn't mean that they can make them believable.
Right. That they're connecting with it.
Yeah, exactly. So connecting to the lines, knowing what you're saying and why, and letting us see that. We don't care if you look at the script, some to get those words. If we want to hear the words, you need to, or you at least need to make us understand that you know the character, that you understand the character. And so that's what you're showing us, the what that character is and what their insides are, instead of just, oh, I can say all those words. So we get, and nowadays, everybody's got their own home production company, all their lights and everything.
Yeah.
And we get so
teleprompters, lights, filters, it's everything.
Teleprompters? Whoa.
Well, there's apps. There's so many teleprompter apps.
Paper towels. And wrote a script up backwards and would roll it down. Literally.
That's awesome.
But there are little ways to simplify the process, like using a music stand, so you don't have to hold the script. And that way your eyes can go down in front of you and back up, to the person you're talking to, right, without having to sweep the hand around in front of your face. And again, have fun with it. Don't let it drive you nuts. Don't try to do too much. People want to do all the actions that the script tells you to do. Okay, I can't jump off a cliff and land in the sand and roll and then get up and say these lines. So why don't we start with where I get up from the sand?
Right.
You can't do all those little pieces that are written in there. Do the acting part.
That's really good advice, because I think that is true, especially with a self-tape where, you have the time to, pour over it and all the minutia. And at the end of the day, really what they want to see is you act. You don't have to necessarily, think of every teeny tiny thing before that moment that's on the script. So I think that's a really good, it's a good reminder for everyone to not get caught up in the little things. When it comes to lines, Bob, and everybody's so different, what's the best approach to just memorizing lines? Should you break it down? Should you read it over many times? Is there anything that you've seen in your time working with actors that works better than others?
No. Well, an actor's coming all the time. I had one young lady who was all about the words. Mm-hmm. She went to school for creative writing. It's all about the words. So we went over the script a couple of times. She goes, right, if I go over 12 more times, I should have it. Right? 12? Exactly? Yeah. Well, it usually takes me about 14 times going over a script to get it down. Okay, but what did you get down? Well, I know the words. I memorized. It's like, okay, that's not what's important. If that's your goal to be a good actor, is to learn to memorize the words, then you're failing, because it's not about that. If you understand the character and why you're saying it, then the words are going to come, or at least the concept. Then you have plenty of time to go over it in rehearsals and things and get it down. But when you go over a script to learn it, and this is true for if you walk into an audition and they hand you, if you're going in live, and they hand you a script, they go, we decided we'd rather hear you read this character or something. Mm-hmm. If you read over the script 3 times, you should be able to have a good understanding so that you can give a good full reading.
Okay.
And the key is that each time you read it over with a purpose. Mm-hmm. Don't just read it over to hear the words or to get the words. Read it over with a specific purpose. The first time you read it over, get the story. What is your character doing in this situation? Then decide who you're talking to. Know who that other person is, or people, and identify them in your head. If you're just talking to ghosts, if you don't really have somebody there, and just go, well, that's person A, that's person B, person C, that's all they are. They're basically ghosts. The problem with ghosts is they fly away.
Sure.
So your eyes will move with them. But you don't have any real connection to them. So think about, I like people to think about people they know and utilize them. Oh yeah, that's my sister. That's my mom. That's my best friend. Or, God, I hate that guy. And use them that way. When you go to them, you're seeing somebody, and you're hearing that voice, and that keeps you focused on them. And so, the second time you read through the script, you've identified them. Read it from their point of view.
Okay.
Know what they're doing and how they're reacting and how they're prompting you. And then the third time through, go back from your point of view and say, okay, now I know how I'm being prompted, or what I think is prompting me, and then how am I reacting back. And so again, each time you read through it, don't just read through it to check the words.
Okay.
Read through it for a purpose. And then it all connects. And once you know what the other person is giving you, that makes it much easier to remember your lines.
And is it a huge deal? I mean, you've obviously seen, thousands of actors book roles and then not book roles. What are your thoughts on, is it a huge deal if you're taping something and say you had a great take and you loved it and you watched it back and it looked good and you felt good about it, but maybe you changed a word or you dropped a word or you added something. Is that a big deal? How big a deal is that?
No, I don't think so. I mean, personally, I think that the only people in the audition who are 100% concerned about the words is the writer.
Sure.
He wants to hear his words, he or she. But the casting director is looking for someone who is that character or who can play that character. And that's what the writer, really wants as well. Certainly the director wants that. It's the on things like a sitcom, the words can change all the time.
Of course.
If an actor comes up with a thing and the writers go, no, this is going to work better, or this or this or this. So words will change, every day. We would used to, when I was doing the Cosby Show, we would get a new script every night, new pages, because things with the writers go, no, this is funny, this will work, and and sometimes it's just accidental on the set. Sometimes we go, no, that really works, let's use it. I don't, again, we're not really listening. It's like if you go outside and you see something that you find interesting and you use your cell phone camera and you start to focus in on it, you're watching the frame, you're watching what's going on in that picture. Mm-hmm. You're not really listening to it. Mm-hmm. And I find that, cast directors are doing the same thing. They're watching the intricacies. Why, again, it's good for you to watch your own self-tapes without the sound. You see what you're really doing.
That absolutely, that really makes sense. And I think, again, you're so excited and, did I get it right? Is it perfect? But I think that's a really good piece of advice to just really, look at, your expressions and are you connecting before you're worrying about the words. Bob, you mentioned there working on the Cosby Show. You have of course worked on so many different sets and so many different projects. Let's talk a little bit about your time as a talent manager. You have aspiring actors and they're just starting out and looking to get their foot in the door. How what's the best way to approach that if you really you don't know anyone and you're new and you're just starting in this business?
Well, we used to just pick up the little ones and throw them in the door. Part of it is certainly always being prepared.
Okay.
Having your tools ready to go, your headshots, your resumes, and now the computer has made us kind of lazy and stupid. I
think a lot of people would agree with that. Yes.
We don't know anything anymore unless we see it on the computer or on our cell phone, and that's why I say the cell phone is the worst terror cell in America. It takes your focus away. You're more likely to get hit by a car crossing the street.
Yes, I saw that happen almost just a couple hours ago.
Yeah. But also I won't let my clients read a script from their cell phone because the cell phone is smart. It has it is retaining all that information for you. And your brain knows that. So your brain is not concerned about remembering the lines if you're reading it from the cell phone because it knows it's going to stay right there on your cell phone.
It's there. So
if you run it off on paper, and that's why if you look around my office, everywhere you look, there is paper, there are scripts, because we always run them off so you can make notes on it. Mm-hmm. You can highlight it and use different colors. You can, the little ones, sometimes we would On Enchanted, we would make faces. We would, the little girl would draw the face that she was feeling, next to her line.
That's awesome.
Using paper, the brain remembers. Finding a good manager can be really vital for the young talent, especially.
Okay.
Managers can help the agents who help you grow, but having a picture that shows you well. I mean, that's your calling card.
You obviously work with young talent children, and I imagine having a talent manager is absolutely crucial to help you navigate that at the beginning of your career. I always like to ask our guests, for our listeners, it's so hard to criticism is hard, and we're all human beings, and it's hard to hear things that are negative. What would you say to actors who are feeling discouraged? Maybe you haven't been booking, maybe you haven't been getting auditions, and things, you're down on yourself. What would you tell actors listening right now if they're having a low point, to sort of pump them up a bit?
Don't let other people control your feelings. It's hard enough to control your own yourself, but don't let other people control them for you. And again, this is supposed to be a fun process. Everything about it is, the business is tough. You made a choice to go into this business, or your parents did, or whatever, and
you're in it.
So enjoy it while you're in it, and try to do the things each day that make it fun. Find fun things to do with it. If you're not working right now, it's a great time to learn a new skill,
right.
Learn a new accent, go jump out of an airplane with a parachute. And they're done that. But find something that you can do each day. Read a new book. Read Shakespeare. Some people have never read Shakespeare. Read different things that you don't think you're going to like. Find a new monologue from literature. But constantly do something that re-inspires you. But don't. Again, life after the pandemic and stuff is people are they're almost afraid to communicate.
Sure.
And the more you communicate with other people, the more fun life is. But try not to do it on the cell. Try to do it in person.
Try to do it in person. Yeah.
The more in person you are with things, the better actor you are. Because what the film and television and plays are about is about people face to face. Otherwise, you go to the theater and you'd see one person on the left side of the stage, one person on the right side of the stage, and they both be talking to their cell phones. Life is meant to be fun. Acting is a recreation of real life. If you're really feeling down, who do you talk to? Your best friend.
Yep.
Your parent.
People that make you feel good. Sure.
Yeah. Talk to them. Get a puppy. There's nothing better in the world than having a pet.
Oh, couldn't agree more with that. I love that you're a dog lover.
Is kind of controls my life.
Bob, it has been such a pleasure chatting with you today. Thank you for your wonderful advice and insights. And I always love how you leave us feeling happy and smiling, and remember to smile. I think that there's no better advice than that. Thank you for spending time with us today.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of our conversation with acting coach and talent manager Bob Luke from Bob Luke Studios. Join us for our next episode, where we'll explore unconventional paths into the talent industry. We have a conversation with someone who forged their own unique way to success in the entertainment world. You won't want to miss this. Thank you for listening to Spotlight Sessions, the podcast from A&P Talent Group. I'm Rosie Ferguson. Bye for now.